Plus, we begin tonight with the rush of politicization in the wake of tragedy. Earlier today, the president commented on the tragic, horrific shooting at the Capital Gazette newspaper in Annapolis, Maryland.
This attack shocked the conscience of our nation and filled our hearts with grief. Journalists, like all Americans, should be free from the fear of being violently attacked while doing their job.
Well, we can all agree on that. Here's what we know so far. The shooter killed 5 people, wounded 2, owing to a grudge, apparently, he had with the paper going back a decade. But if you're watching other networks, that might not have been your takeaway.
I think it's worth pointing out that we've had a constant rhetoric coming, even from the president, that the press is the enemy of the people.
We have seen a spike in threats against us since Donald Trump's election. We've joined the ranks of Russia and third world nations where reporters' lives aren't safe.
And this rhetoric, while not directly responsible, is really ratcheting up threats against journalists.
It is just unfortunate that in 2018, that's where our mind goes. And in fairness, part of it goes there because the president has declared that the media is the enemy of the people.
Now, this kind of over-the-top talk didn't just come out of thin air. The left for the past week, especially, have been using outrage over the border crisis to stir up strong emotions against the administration, maybe register people to vote as well. And with that has come a virtual call to replace all political dialogue, real debate, with physical confrontation.
If you see anybody from that cabinet, you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
We should not be terrorizing families and children.
Tearing migrant children away from their parents, reportedly in some cases holding those children as hostages.
There is a cost to being an accomplice to this cruel, deceitful administration.
They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you.
Well, when true evil strikes, as it did tragically in Annapolis, Maryland yesterday, perhaps some deep breaths from all sides are in order. Well, Molly Hemingway wrote a piece in the Federalist today about this media phenomenon. She joins us along with Howie Kurtz, Fox News host of Media Buzz, Sundays at 11 a.m., and in L.A., attorney Anthony Tall. It's great to see all of you. Molly, let's start with you. I mean, the rush to judgment, blaming Trump, reminded me of what happened in the wake of the Gabby Gifford shooting. We saw Sarah Palin blamed. Her website had the crosshairs over, I guess, political districts. New York Times still raises that, even though that had nothing to do with nutbag Jarrett Loeffner, who is a psychopath. New York Times still used that debunk theory in an editorial from June of last year after the congressional baseball game. So this pushing of the theories that conservatives, or now in this case Trump, is responsible for this crazy person who had a grudge, frankly, it's nothing new.
Well, and it's just so bad to do speculation in general in the absence of facts. It was bad enough to see many people in the media trying to blame Donald Trump before anybody knew what was happening. What was really alarming was that they kept with it even after the facts came out showing that there was no correlation between Donald Trump's very strong criticism of the media and the shooting at the newspaper in Annapolis. And that's really bad for the media themselves because they are under attack by a president who does have strong criticism of them, and they played right into the hands by creating a false narrative about the shooting.
Howie, the media obviously has been under a lot of pressure, shrinking staffs, budgetary constraints, and now this. They've had a very cantankerous relationship with the president. Their approval numbers are way down, and now this. I'm going to ask Kellyanne Conway about this in a few moments, but your takeaway.
This is reprehensible. It's guilt by association, and it's being spread by journalists who want to blame Donald Trump for everything, including rainstorms and rush hour traffic. Now, I don't agree that the president should be calling the press the enemy of the American people, but Laura, it is an absurd stretch to go from that to this blood on his hands claim, which is a blood libel.
Anthony, your reaction to the rush to blame this president, maybe you agree with some of the critics.
I agree that the president's rhetoric does not help the environment. Is he directly to blame? No, but you know, it's just like the old story where you have the mother cat who has 3 legs and she hobbles, and then all of her kittens start hobbling. That's what the president has fed this country. He's fed this country a lot of rhetoric, and people out there pick on it, and we've become kittens, and we start following the things that become not pretty palatable in our country. So no, it's not blood directly on the president's hands, but to say that the environment isn't so toxic that it could lead to something like this is not true as well.
Well, we had Michael Bloomberg speculating that after the Times Square attempted bombing, that it could have been someone with a political grudge, let's say someone who was against Obamacare. I went back and watched that golden oldie before the show. So, again, the speculation, it always seems to go against the conservatives.
That's what I think people find so frustrating. I mean, I do agree that the way people talk can create bad atmospheres.
We all need to clean it up.
A year ago, we had the Republicans on the baseball field shot up by an activist who was motivated by political
Bernie
reasons.
Sanders enthusiast.
And we didn't have these lengthy conversations about how uncivil rhetoric or a media complex that gets people all upset about everything all the time, whether that played a role. If you're going to claim that rhetoric plays a role, you need to be consistent about it, no matter who is the target or victim.
Howie, a lot of folks are going back to this quaint old idea that the press should be calling balls and strikes. And for a lot of us who've witnessed just how this has been covered, that this presidency has been covered from day one, the press doesn't seem to be doing its job in many cases. There are some great reporters out there, but today we had Jim Acosta shouting as the president was doing a speech on, I guess, the anniversary of the tax bill. Do we have the tape on that? Yeah, let's watch.
Will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir? Mr. President, will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir?
You get the sense that they're just doing it because they know it's going to be clipped. It's going to be a YouTube moment. I mean, at some point, he's not going to say, oh, you in the back, way in the back, I'll answer. He's not going to do that.
Well, I mean, too many organizations are playing to an anti-Trump audience. Now, unfortunately, some of these
shrinking audience, Howie.
Yes, that is true. Unfortunately, some of these some of these other mass shootings, I have seen people on the right and the left sometimes try to score partisan points. I don't like it on either side.
Right.
But it's being weaponized against President Trump. And here's what's really sad, Laura. 5 people who came to work every day in Annapolis to try to serve their community, taking risks as journalists because you write things that make people angry, they're dead. And that's being overshadowed by all of this overheated political rhetoric and the attempt to tie President Trump, whether you like his rhetoric or not, to this bloodshed is really sad. It's really
Anthony,
sick.
over the weekend, you saw the clip we played, and now pretty much everyone has seen it, of Maxine Waters. And she used words like go out and harass them, basically telling people, driving them out of driving people out of public places, gas stations, with their family. Now, it doesn't matter. Get up in their faces, push back on them, that kind of rhetoric. What about that? What about what that says to the hundreds and thousands of protesters out there against ICE and against, senators, I guess, whoever voted for Trump? Is that healthy?
No, that's not healthy at all. But I think Maxine Waters' point was to protest. I think she was very inartful in explaining herself. And I want to give her the benefit of the doubt and say she wasn't calling for any violence.
She's a 70-plus-year-old woman. She's been in politics since 1992. You're telling me that she didn't understand what she was saying in front of that microphone? She knows exactly what she's saying. This is about registering people to vote. This is about keeping a perpetual state of outrage among the people as the economy is improving and opportunities are expanding. I think she knows exactly what she's saying because she's been saying a version of it, Anthony, for years and years and years. I would say decades she's been saying a version of what she said Saturday.
Well, like I said, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I understand where you're coming from. But I do want to say that she never said there was not any specific language, and there's nothing wrong with protests. I don't agree with harassing individuals at restaurants. I don't agree with getting in someone's face, blocking their way, their right of passage. But
Maxine Waters used that word harassment.
She used that word.
Harassment.
Yeah, she used that word. And
but
when
if
I
she's
hear
calling
harassment,
for legal, she did use the word harassment. She did.
She knows. Well, I go back to Alinsky's rules for radicals. I read that today too, just for fun, just for bathroom reading. Keep the pressure on. Rule 8. Always change your tactics. Don't become old news. If you push a negative hard enough, it'll break through to the other side. You see a lot of that in the protest culture today, Molly. It's high pitched and it's sustained and this is what you need to do, and it's Linda Sarsour. Everyone's Linda Sarsour now.
And it's one thing for political activists to do it. It's entirely another thing when you see the media enabling it as well, or cheering on some of these mob attacks. And it really is important that we have some shared space so we can have discussions about important issues such as border enforcement and whatnot. And we don't have a media environment that's creating a place for people to push back and
have
talk
a real
in a civil
debate
manner.
and a real conversation, and everybody needs to ratchet down the rhetoric. I think we can all agree on that.
I agree with that.
Thanks so much, guys.